This is interesting because there's been developments today. We're told that Manchester United have made initial approaches over the Sporting striker Victor Gyökeres, but it's via intermediaries. So it should be stated here, it isn't club-to-club contact yet. It's one of those situations where they will approach intermediaries to try and explore the conditions of a particular deal.
Is that normal?
Yeah, these things can happen between clubs. If a player has been told, yes, we will allow you to leave provided the price is right, there's no point wasting time. It's almost the unwritten rule of like, see if you can sort out a club and then the two clubs will come together and try and sort out a price. There's no point spending weeks and weeks, clubs trying to sort out a fee, finally getting it over the line and then say, come on then, oh no, I don't fancy going. Yeah. And all of that will have been for nothing. So there has to be some sort of encouragement that the player would want to go. We do know that the head coach, Ruben Amorim, is a huge admirer of Victor Gyökeres. He played under Amorim at Sporting, played fantastically well under Amorim, continued to play fantastically well last season as well. And it should also be said here that United are in the market for a striker regardless of what happens with Rasmus Højlund. We did tell you last week that there has been some interest, particularly from Italy, where his stock is still quite high because he came from Atalanta, was highly rated when United took a punt on him. Inter Milan, we think, are interested. They were just waiting for Christian Kivu to be appointed officially, and now they will make a decision on whether they want to pursue it or not. Rasmus Højlund, though, publicly at least, is saying, I've got a contract here for another few years. I'll be at Manchester United next season and I will be competing for my place next season. It should also be said here that United, yes, they are interested in Victor Gyökeres, that is clear, but there are a number of other players in that position that they'll be looking at too.
Are they still looking at Brian Mbeumo from Brentford?
100%, yeah. Talks are ongoing between Manchester United and Brentford over the signing of Brian Mbeumo. United, we think, will go back in with an improved offer for the forward after their first offer was rejected. That first offer was an initial £45 million plus £10 million in performance-related add-ons. So you're looking at a total package of £55 million. And I think United knew that would get rejected, but it's the start of a negotiation. What we do know is that Brian Mbeumo wants to go to Manchester United. There's all this talk that's come up recently that with Thomas Frank potentially going to Tottenham, would he try and sign Brian Mbeumo? He might try and do that, but as far as we're aware, we think that Mbeumo has chosen United.
Dharmesh, we've been told, haven't we, there's doom and gloom financially at Manchester United. People have, sadly lost their roles and stuff. Where's the money coming from for these signings?
Well, I mean, look, with regard to the Cunha signing and the Mbeumo signing, it's not Manchester United start a transfer window and they've got £0 to spend. They will have a budget, and I think that regardless of what happens with sales, those two kind of signings will fall within that budget. I think thereafter, then you might see a situation where Manchester United will have to maybe make sales to fund other signings. Now, if you look, interestingly, at the signings that they're trying to make at the moment, Mbeumo and Cunha's in already. You could argue that they would likely play in the number 10, one of the number 10 roles behind the striker. Now, if you look at the players that United have in their squad who could potentially play in that role, you're looking at the likes of Rashford, Sancho, Anthony, Garnacho. They look like that they would be up for sale effectively for United. So I think United would prefer permanent sales of those players. If you look at their market value at the moment, they would probably get around upwards of 100 to 125 million pounds combined for those four players. But you can't rule out loan moves again for these players either, because some of them, particularly Rashford and Sancho, will be on high wages. And so would a club want to take on those high wages, or will they need the help of a club like United to be able to maybe just subsidise some of those wages as well?
Another complicated summer for United then. Carvey, let's talk to United. Could Arsenal nip in and nick him?
There have been lots of reports that there's a bit of a split at Arsenal in the sense that Andrea Berta, the new sporting director, may want Gyökeres, whereas Mikel Arteta is leaning more towards Šeško. I haven't seen with my own eyes a great deal of both of the players, but I think they're different types of strikers, and Gyökeres is just a goal machine. I mean, his record at Sporting is incredible, and in every big game, he scores goals.
Right.
Title decider, he scores.
Look at
Cup
these.
final, he scores.
Look at these stats, right? Now, we've been asking, window after window, are Arsenal going to sign a striker? And they've consistently said, we are waiting. We're not going to just buy anybody. We're going to wait for the right person. Look at those stats. Is Benjamin Šeško the right person for Arsenal? Explain.
I mean, look, if you've got to compare the leagues they're playing in as well. Gyökeres, no doubt about it. I mean, that is a phenomenal record. 66 games and 68 goals with 17 assists compared to 64 games, 27 goals and 7 assists for Šeško. However, you've got to look at the age profile as well. And it won't just be black and white stats that Arsenal and other clubs will look at when they're trying to sign a player. So they might have a look at Šeško and think, you know what, we've seen enough for there to be such a high ceiling for this player. Gyökeres, of course, it's clear that he is, as Carve said, is a goal machine, and you might be buying the ready-made, finished article if you were to sign him.
Don't Arsenal need that, though?
But you could also argue he has never played in the Premier League. He's played in the Championship for Coventry, where he was brilliant, and then he's played in the Portuguese league. So Šeško has gone to the Bundesliga, widely renowned as one of European football's top 5 leagues. So they might take that into account as well. But Arsenal might see his ceiling as being a lot higher than maybe Gyökeres, simply because, one, of how he's playing, but also because of his age profile as well.
Yeah, I get that. Is there the possibility, though, Carve, that Arsenal might go for the younger man whose stats are clearly a lot worse than Gyökeres's and end up like Man United did by buying a striker on potential and not being the finished article?
I mean, first of all, I'm not a great fan of stats. I think
Our stats man's gutted now.
Glad we put that
worked
one
hard
up.
on that.
Glad we put that one up for you to think.
I think one stat that's really important is age. Šeško's obviously 5 years younger, I think, so would have more of a resale value. But you need to look in depth at how Sporting play and how Leipzig play. Sporting are the best team in Portugal. I imagine the way they play, they dominate the ball in a lot of games. They have excellent creative players whose job is simply to create chances for Gyökeres. And Gyökeres is a fantastic finisher, and that's why playing in the best team in Sporting, he's scoring so many goals. Leipzig are not the best team in Germany, and they may not be set up just to create chances for Šeško. His role in that team might be totally different to Gyökeres' role at Sporting. Now, Arsenal have got a very good, large recruitment, data analysis department, and I'm sure they've been watching a lot of these two players as well as lots of other strikers they've been targeting, and they will have been poring over the numbers and the data, analysing it, presenting it to Mikel Arteta and his closest advisors at the club, and they will make the decision. I don't think you can just go by that graphic or that stat and say that proves that Gyökeres is better than Šeško. I think there's more to it than that.
It's difficult to compare.
With all due respect to the people who create stats, because they do a fantastic job.
Too late now. It's too late.
It's also difficult to compare the example you gave with Rasmus Højlund, because if you look at, going back to these stats, that Šeško's played 64 games for RB Leipzig. When Manchester United signed Rasmus Højlund, it was off the back. Yes, he'd been at Copenhagen and Sturm Graz, but in one of European football's top leagues, Serie A, at Atlanta, he spent one season there, made 20 league starts. And off the back of that, United decided, right, we've seen enough for us to buy this player. But I think it's been widely thought that he should have been a player who could have learned from an experienced striker. Instead, he's literally been thrown in and been asked to be Manchester United's main man. It's difficult enough being the number 9 at Manchester United at 20 years of age when he joined. How hard is that? Add to that, and I know I'm trying to defend Rasmus Højlund here, but
That's
add
fair
to
enough.
that the 2 pre-seasons, he didn't have a pre-season when he joined, and his second pre-season, he actually started on flames in that pre-season, and then he got a really bad hamstring injury and missed the start of last
He was
season.
actually on flames.
Some say, yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
All right.
So it's difficult to compare
Yeah, no, I get it.
the fact that Rasmus and Benjamin Šeško, because I think Šeško probably at this stage of his career is further in his development than Rasmus Højlund was when he joined Manchester United.
And you were saying, like, if Rasmus Højlund was playing for Sporting last season, he probably would have scored 25, 30 goals.
You might well have
I
done.
don't know. You know the stats.
But do we believe Arsenal though when they say we've been holding out for our main target? We know who we want, and that is Benjamin Šeško. Did they really hold out for Benjamin Šeško? Looking at those stats,
we said, didn't we, in January that they were trying to do a deal for Šeško, but at that time it was difficult because Leipzig was still going quite well involved in a number of competitions, and they were trying to get into the Champions League for next season. And they probably thought we've got more of a chance if Benjamin Šeško's at the club. And the amount of money that Arsenal would have had to have spent in January compared to trying to do a deal in the summer, we've explained this all the time.
And we'll leave you here with the latest from Manchester United. If you liked it, you know what to do. Leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and activate the bell so you don't miss any news about the Red Devils. Thanks for your audience, and see you next edition of Man United 24 Hours React. Here, the passion for United is news every day. Thanks, and glory, glory Man United.